Looking for an EHR that's built for the way therapists work? From automated scheduling and billing to customizable notes and treatment plans, Simple Practice gives you everything you need right at your fingertips. Learn more at simplepractice.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Powbox, a HIPAA-compliant email security platform built specifically for healthcare providers. Powbox helps therapists secure every email they send and receive through Google Workspace and Microsoft 365. Our listeners can get $250 off an annual plan with promo code MODERN.
You're listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide, where therapists live, breathe, and practice as human beings. To support you as a whole person and a therapist, here are your hosts, Curt and Katie Vernoy.
Welcome back, Modern Therapists. This is Modern Therapist Survival Guide. I'm Curt with Katie Vernoy, and this is the podcast for therapists about the things that go on in our professions, the things that happen to therapists. And we are working on this project where we started last year with some grad students, and we're following up with them each year and kind of seeing how stories change, how perspectives has changed. And we were reflecting off air somewhat recently that this is really cool to do in real time and getting updates from people. And to the future people listening to this, it's, I'm assuming, really cool to be able to hear all of these perspectives change all at once. And among that is our interview today. We are joined once again by Marvin Vasquez. And thank you for coming back and spending some time and talking about your experiences in grad school and on your pathway to becoming a therapist.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, Curt, for holding this. I've actually seen some of your other interviewees, and it's been great. It's been great to hear the process and how different and diverse it is, but it's also similar. We're all having similar thoughts. I'm currently in my second year as a marriage and family therapist. I'm at the California State University in Northridge, and I'm currently completing my clinical training at Phoenix, South California, Lakeview Terrace. They kind of work with a diverse community, but mostly, Latinx individuals and families. The thing that I wanted to do and what I set out to do in my first year, I'm getting to do it. And that's really rewarding.
Before we jump into the further conversation here, let's remind folks who you are and why you wanted to be a therapist.
Well, I think the last time we spoke, the reason I wanted to be a therapist was a lot of the things that were happening in my community, my personal experience, were things that I realized that we're kind of a helping community, we're a resilient community, all these things that made me kind of navigate towards being a therapist and then just kind of giving back, right? That's kind of my biggest thing. So I really needed to find a fieldwork site or practicum site that kind of promoted mental health in my community and promoted processing feelings and all this stuff. And I think that's my biggest reason, right? I'm seeing the things that weren't offered to me at a young age are now being offered, and I can be part of that. I can be part of that resource now. I could be, I'm doing therapy in 2 languages. I'm doing it in Spanish and English, and I can see how beneficial that is, especially with the families and how we can integrate these new ideas, right? So I think that I'm not really trying to promote the right way to think, right? I'm just trying to promote new ways of thinking, feeling, and relating to those uncertainties. Maybe I think I talked about some survival stances that sometimes we place ourselves in the Latinx community. Oh, this worked for us. I'm going to keep going because it's consistent. It's a caution. It's the endurance that we've been put in. And it's really difficult once we hunker down on these thoughts oh, I'm thinking this way. I'm going to behave this way because I've survived this way. And my thing is yeah, let's keep these survival things that are keeping you going. But that rigidity is sometimes hurting you and your relationships, right? So how can I promote more flexibility, even if it's just a little bit, and and then just kind of showing them how that can be beneficial for them. So it's really hunkering down all my ideas of why I wanted to be a therapist. And now that I'm in the room, I'm yes. Like I'm helping where I think, my community needs the most help. And it was just to integrate a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of new thoughts in order for them to like process and find new meaning in the world and find new like ways to really integrate relationships with, family members, children, their own parents. So the why I wanted to be a therapist was to work with this community, and I'm doing it now, and I think it's like reinforcing everything that why I stepped into this field.
How was your process of finding your practicum sites?
It was actually fairly easy. We had like a fair, like an online fair, of like all these sites that were just kind of promoting themselves. They're all community-based sites. So they were just offering like what we promote, like what population we work with. Some of them offered stipends, which was probably the most popular site. And then some of them work with like Cal State Northridge. So they're like partners with them. So it was easy to find one because they gave us all the options that, that have a contract with a CSUN. And if you wanted to find an outside one, you had to go through steps to do that. And a lot of us just really don't have the time and don't want to do the extra legwork to find outside sources. I think some of us did, but I kind of already made my choices with that, with those entities that came and promoted themselves, which was Phoenix, South California. They offered a stipend, and they offered like the community that they were working with, the age range, and all that just made sense with me. It was super competitive. I think everybody like, saw the stipend and saw like, oh, this is like a really good position. And we've heard really good things about this place. So like a lot of third years and a lot of people who've graduated really talk highly about like Phoenix House. So, that was my first choice. And I was like, I got to get this. So I ended up getting it. It was very competitive. I mean, anybody could have gotten this position. I really do believe on my cohort. And I think like everyone's really talented and has their own way of doing therapy. So I was very lucky. I think I said that last time. I'm very lucky. But sometimes, effort and luck works out. It was a very stressful situation too. I know that a lot of people struggle to get placed, and where they got placed, it isn't as supportive, what I'm hearing. And, they're struggling a lot with guidance from supervision, and we're all flailing sometimes. And, I'm flailing too, but I feel like I found like really supportive like group or like field work site where, I'm flailing and they're kind of like, "Hey, we're keeping it together one step at a time." They're grounding me, they're bringing me back. "You're here for a reason, you were chosen for a reason, and this is why." And they kind of highlight all the good that I'm bringing in and all the negative thoughts that are flooding in my head. I'm like, "Okay, they're right." I mean, they chose me, right? Like, I'm here for a reason. Their guidance is very much appreciated, so the process was so stressful that everyone was moving fast. Everyone wasn't even like thinking about anything else but this. And I think it could have been brought up a little bit better and with a little bit more preparation by the school. But, that's like my own critique of like how this went about because it was really like very cutthroat, very like everyone's just going out for whatever they need. And it didn't feel very collaborative, to be frank. But that's the nature of like trying to be placed where you want to be placed, right? Like sometimes you have to be ultra competitive and put your best foot forward and hope for the best.
As a therapist, your time is precious, and Simple Practice helps you protect it. Their new AI-powered note taker creates structured progress notes in minutes, so you can wrap up sessions and move on with your day. Easy-to-use billing features take the hassle out of getting paid, even when insurance is involved.
Another great perk? Scheduling is simple for you and your clients with unlimited automated appointment reminders. Make the most of every day with an all-in-one practice management solution that lets you focus on the work that matters most, connecting with your clients. Join over 225,000 practitioners who trust Simple Practice to keep their day running smoothly. Start today at simplepractice.com.
So you've talked about struggling, flailing. It seems like there's a few different pieces to that. Can you talk a little bit about what challenges you're facing right now as a individual and as a, new clinician?
Yeah, I think, sometimes like the flailing happens when you're like, am I even doing the right thing? Like my biggest thing was I'm afraid of starting because I don't know if I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not sure if I'm moving the right way. I like one thing that I'm afraid of, right, is when I tell my story, is someone going to hold it with care? If someone going to care enough and if they're gonna go to the right direction of where I wanna go, right? So, before I started, there was a lot of fear. It was like, "Oh my god, I'm in the room, I'm with another person, I don't know if I'm ready." Doesn't matter how many times gone through a simulation, is different. But a lot of the times, it was just like, "Just keep it simple." Like, the most my supervisor, like, they just told me, "Just be you." Like, "Just you're
Mm.
talking to another person right now, like, just don't just you don't need to do all the theory right now. You don't need to do all that stuff. You don't need to set it up the way you think you need to set it up in your mind. Just sit down, ask them who they are, and then you can start integrating the things, like make sure that they know how to cope with the things that they're talking about before you go into anything, like establish a foundation for them. Like it's all very simple things in the beginning and then we can bring in all the other theories that you wanna do, like, it isn't just we just dive in and then we're going in and you're gonna fix them in the first day, like, it's more like subtle changes, things will get there. Maybe you feel like you didn't do anything, but there's a lot of things that you did, and we could talk about that. So a lot of the flailing is all in my head, really, and it's not about, like, what I did or didn't do, and I'm a trainee, and it's not expected for me to, like, just know everything, and that's why they're there to support me, that's why they're there, like, kind of guiding me, and they don't micromanage me or anything, but they do, like, "Okay, you did this. What was your outcome? Like, what do you think we should do next?" Instead of like, "This is what you did wrong. This is what you should do next." It's more of like a conversation and a partnership, which I really enjoy. But yeah, the flailing, it happens. It just now it's happening a little bit less because I'm in the room more and these thoughts are like, "Okay, I think I'm moving forward." Even if it's a small change, it's okay. And sometimes we move backwards, and that doesn't mean that I'm doing something wrong, it's just the process, it's like up and down, up. It's like a
Yeah.
never-ending thing. So, I just gotta trust it.
When you were starting out down this process of becoming a therapist, what did you expect the second part of graduate school to look like? And what are your experiences now?
I mean, I expected more, like, trainings, right? Like, okay, now that you're seeing children, here are some like trainings that'll make you better at, having conversation with children, psychoeducating children. These are the steps you do. 'Cause every age group's a little bit different. So I thought like more specific training on like what you'll be seeing in the room, like couples or families. And this is like instead of more theories, it's more like a foundational based or step by step like things that you can do. We did see a little bit of that, but some of it was a little redundant. We've taken courses on community health and how to write a notes. And at this point, like, the sites are already training you how they want you to write the notes. The sites are already training you how to put a problem list, how to diagnose, how to do all these things. It's more like, that flailing that's happening, it's because we're being presented with new challenges, new individuals, diverse individuals, and we need guidance, and our supervision can only do so much. It's like an hour to 2 hours now. Like when we're at school, we would hope that we had better structure of like, hey, you're gonna be in a room with this certain individual. These are some possibilities, and the most learning I've had is when we're talking about a case and then we have like 4 or 5 eyes on it and we're all like, this is where you could possibly go. This is another intervention you can possibly do, instead of we're doing some DMH stuff where not everybody's going to do like DMH, and most of us are on DMH sites. So all of this is kind of redundant. And I think that's my biggest frustration with that, but not necessarily, they're not, obviously they're offering like other things that are beneficial, but they're also offering things that are like, I'm not really getting the point right now. Like it feels this class isn't really adding to my experience.
So you're wanting more clinical depth, you're wanting more trainings that's going to help you as a clinician. And I just want to comment on that because I think in the conversations we've been having with folks at similar stages as you, some folks are really just wanting to get the practicum side, or they're wanting to get their first job and they're looking at the nuts and bolts of it. It seems like that was really tough. That was something that you had to overcome, but you got there. You got the ideal spot with the ideal population. You know what you want to do. You're getting a little bit of a stipend, which is amazing. Most people don't get those for practicum for their first field placement. And so it's interesting because there's a lot of clinical work that your experience is 100% the case. We must learn on the job. Hopefully our practicums or agencies or whatever will train us on these things. But grad schools do have kind of a patchy record of making sure, even on the clinical end, that we have enough knowledge. And so in working with the clients that you're working with, what are you finding as far as how you're gathering what you need to be able to care for them in the way that you want to care for them?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think what I've noticed is a lot of the times it's, what can you do for me?
Mm,
What kind of immediate change can you help me with? And I think that's where the stabilization part or point comes in. It's like, these will help you manage your distressing emotions a little bit better.
sure.
And this is how I can help you. So my like I can't speak for all populations, but for the population I'm working with right now, like it's okay, this is helping me. Now I can trust you. Now we can
Mm,
go in. So I can't just offer, hey, just trust me. This is the process. It's like, no, like you gotta show me first, that this works,
yeah,
show me how it works. And then once you show me, okay, now we can go in wherever you want to go. It,
sure.
even when I'm working with kiddos or like, teenagers, it's like, what can you do for me now? Okay, cool. You could do that for me. That's great. And then let's dive into everything else. So it's very led by them. Like, what's impacting you now, and what can I help with you now? What can I help now? And same thing with parents, right? Like they're so like most of them are like, the school recommended this, and I don't know if this is even gonna work. And it's a very like, well, okay, well, what's your goal? What's your goal? And I need to know their goal, and how can I help kind of meet both, or maybe show you a little bit of like how the work I'm doing with your kid or with your teenager is gonna like present like a behavioral change or present something that you actually like. So it's very tough because sometimes they have two different goals, and it's like, well, we'll see. But it ends up working out. Like that first initial thing is like, okay, they've helped me with this. I want to keep coming.
If you're a therapist in private practice, email is probably one of your biggest compliance risks. What most therapists don't know is that Gmail and Outlook are not fully compliant on their own. Powbox helps you secure every email you send and receive by ensuring outbound email is automatically encrypted and delivered directly to your client's inbox. No portals or passwords required. You can do all this without changing your tools or how you work. Powbox works seamlessly with your existing Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 account.
Powbox also protects your inbox from phishing and malicious emails that target healthcare practices. Setup is fast, there's no training required, and Powbox's US-based team is ready to help if you need it. As a Modern Therapist Survival Guide listener, you can get $250 off an annual Powbox plan. Just visit powbox.com, that's Paubox, and use promo code MODERN to get started.
So that's been the struggle. The biggest struggle is actually people who are dealing with outside entities, you know? So,
Sure.
like working with the Latinx community, there's some current political climates that have been impacting them and have been impacting my family and impacting the whole community, which makes that process really, really hard. Promoting optimism is tough because a lot of them are dealing with like fear. And a lot of them are dealing with fear, like with their family members, peers, parents, their own safety and uncertainty. And all I can do in that moment is like, yeah, that's really happening. And I'm not here to fix that. I can't fix that. But how can we stay grounded? Like, what can we do? And the only thing I've noticed that I could do is just like I've kind of integrated like the safety plan, but in like a different way. Like let's let's safety plan or like let's safety plan or let's have an action plan, because that'll get us more grounded in reality of like this is happening, we can't change this, but what can we do? And I collaborated with a Professor Ruscio. She still works at CSUN, and she's also part of this community. And I kind of ran this by her, and we created like this safety action plan, And anybody who comes in with like this kind of issue, what we do is just kind of build routine. Like, okay, who's going to be in charge of checking in with everyone? When do we check in? Do we check in the morning? Do we check in at night? After all these things are happening, what what are we doing? Text messages, WhatsApp, like where's everybody most active? And are we able to share, locations with everyone? So then we have a little bit less anxiety, a little bit more control of where everything's going. It kind of sucks that we have to be put in this kind of like place. But if we're in this place, like I kind of mold it like, we've been in worse places, We've been resilient, we've been, we're strong in different ways. And I think that this is a good way to like kind of keep everyone together and knowing where everyone's at and knowing everyone's safety. And once that safety is breached, maybe what are the action plans, right? What are we going to do now? Where can we search? Hospitals, jails, maybe the ICE holding facilities, if that's like a possibility. So I've created like this kind of like worksheet for them to kind of go down these steps. Like this is what we do to control what we can right now. When these things are like breached, what do we do now? Like how do we go about this? And I've shared that with like my field side, and I've shared that with a couple of like colleagues. And I've actually shared that with people in my personal life. Like, look, this is what you can do. And here's some websites for like free or low cost attorneys, and it's kind of grounded everybody. It kind of grounded me a little bit, and just like I can't do much, but I can do this, and I can just sit there with like the discomfort of you know anxiety and fear and sadness and anger. Yeah, and that's kind of like what gets me the most like emotional and upset, because it's kind of like you kind of feel helpless a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot that you're talking about that is of the moment,
Yeah.
and just kind of reflecting that you're in Los Angeles and working with the Latinx community, so we know what that means and we can understand that. I know when I was working in South Los Angeles, there was a lot of other systems that were treating all different folks in all different bodies in a lot of different ways, that there was that element of, we can't change what's happening. We can try to advocate on our off time. We can do what we can do. But there is a piece to this where, and I'm speaking now to you specifically, Marvin, that you're a member of the system and you're also impacted by the system. And it seems like you've been able to create a tool that's extremely helpful. That sounds wonderful. I don't know if you would be willing to share it with our audience. And we can link to that in our show notes if you are.
No, absolutely. I think it would be beneficial. Yeah, I would love to.
But I think the piece that I wanted to ask you about, because this is something that I think all clinicians face at some point in some way. But just where you're sitting in your career, where you're sitting in the world, in the time that we're in, it makes sense that whether it's flailing, whether it's struggling, it makes sense that you're sitting in a lot of places. You're sitting both as a new clinician learning how to do the thing, as a person in a Latinx body, and working with clients who maybe aren't going to initially trust you because you're part of a system de facto, but also what's happening with systems right now. And
Mhm.
so it seems like there is a lot that you're facing. And so how are you coping with that as you face all of these challenges at the same time?
Just trying to find a routine, honestly. I've learned, and I think that this is something that is good and bad, but I've learned how to present really well when I can. And in my private therapy is where these big questions are reflected. Like, what am I doing? How am I helping? Who am I? Am I making a difference? Why does this hurt so much? So all those questions, it's like that outlet that I need, it's this thing that is keeping me going. But I also have like a wonderful, wonderful like group that helps me. And some of them are family, some of them are friends. And it really helps, like, just to live a normal, like, life, having like a nice lunch, having breakfast, just keeping that similar routine is great. But all of that's underlying, like, my behavior has changed a little bit. I'm carrying around my, like, ID everywhere, not like my ID passport stuff. Like, these things are like subtle changes that I'm like, I need to have this because it isn't just, I don't present as a non Hispanic person. I present like as a Hispanic person in this world. So these things are gonna impact me at some point, or maybe not. And maybe I'm just a lucky person who's not gonna get, like, profiled in this world, but it's changed my behavior, and that behavioral change really impacts me in, like, in a psychological way, impacts, like, my family members, impacts how we behave. So, the outlet is to keep routine and just normal way of living, and that's all we can do right now. And I think that's it. Like, leaning on my therapist and thanking her for listening to me rant for hours is the best help. But yeah, and sometimes leaning in my work, like really seeing some changes and seeing people being happy to come into therapy and really wanting to express their, like, emotions and process them with me. That's kind of nice. So yeah, I think that's the way I'm coping.
Last year, when you joined us, you talked a lot about your relationship with your family and their idea about you entering into the mental health space.
Mhm.
How has that relationship evolved as this seems to be the apparent profession that you're sticking with?
Yes, I think I will stick with this for a very long time. I'm finding that very rewarding. So my parents still don't know, and I've had on and off things with them. think there's been a little bit of a lot of things that have been rising up since I've been in this field, and I think it's hard because I'm seeing changes in other families and I'm still not seeing changes in my family. So like it's very frustrating, to be in that dynamic with them. I still love and care about them, but I had to set a boundary and step away. So last time we spoke, I think I was seeing them like every week or so, really checking up on them, really like having this positive mindset. But at some point, I think that was a little bit detrimental to my like mental and physical health. So I had to step away from that and like let them be people and let them control the actions that they were doing and just being okay with that, but just not being around that so much. I still haven't talked to them about that, but I have talked to like my closest siblings about it and they really appreciate it. And my sister sought out therapy and I almost cried when I heard that. And she's been doing a lot better. And I'm really hoping she sticks with it and really hoping that, this is like a new, like beneficial world for her. And, my brother, he heard about it too. And he like, talked about the last podcast and he saw it and he's like, I was in tears and I really appreciate that you were talking about these things. And we just had a closer relationship and that's been really nice. He's been reaching out for help from me and I'm like, it's great that we're talking, but it'd be better if like, I'm
You
really
need your own
biased.
therapist, dude.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Hopefully one day he reaches out and just like I'm super biased and I understand why I can't be your therapist, but I'll help you, because he's my little brother. I'm his older brother, and I'm always gonna be there for him. I just don't know if like it's not therapy me for sure. It's like it's just me. Like
Yeah.
this is me who is just trying to help you out.
Yeah.
So
It's the big sibling
exactly,
duties, right? To support
advice.
in whatever way you can.
Exactly, it's like, "I'm giving you advice, I'm not trying to make you get there, I'm gonna give you everything," you know?
Yeah. I'm not gonna be a therapist, I'm just gonna tell you what to do. That's what older siblings
Exactly.
are supposed to do.
Exactly. So I think that's what's the dynamics have changed there, so I kinda really enjoyed that with them, and I think I'm working my way up to eventually meet on my meet like, my mom and dad and help them out in different ways, but I'm not ready yet. I had to set that boundary, and I think, with everything going on, that's another animal that I'm not willing to tame yet.
Got it. So you've got some family support. It sounds like you've got some close colleagues, you've got some professors, you've got great supervision, you've got a therapist. It sounds like that's very helpful to you. Are there other types of support that you wish you had at this stage in your career?
Yeah. I think last time we spoke about, like, where am I gonna get my career advice? Like, where am I going? Where is this all gonna end up, you know? I still don't know, like, I've gotten some people to kinda tell me what they did and all these other, like, people who have, like, their own, group, have their own private practice, and it's like, I'm a person who needs, "What did you do step by step?" Like, what are your steps? Because all I know is when December happens and I get my, associate, like, number, where am I gonna go? Like, what are the options? Where am I gonna work? I still need supervision, I can't be on my own, but, like, how do you choose, Because where I'm currently at, where I'm contracted at, like, sure, they hire some people, but that's not, like, they might not have an opening, like, and a lot of people like it there, so it's not like I can stay there, So, just knowing the game plan, um, is something that I want. Maybe from our program, like, "Hey, what's the game plan? You're about to graduate. Here are your options," like, "This is what you should be looking for," prepping, not just like sorry to call them out, but not just one town hall meeting And then everyone's freaking out after that. Everyone's like on group chat, like, what the heck is going on? Because that's kind of like what the process has been like. Something's sprung on us, and then we got to mobilize really, really quickly,
Ah,
where I would have liked a little bit more time to think about and really like pick and choose. And it's moving a little too fast. So yeah, a little bit more guidance on like career paths and plans. That would be really, really nice. And then more support, like maybe having like groups in, like not voluntary groups, right? Like people want to lead a group like for Latinx and, or, people who are dealing with or going through like this Palestinian or Israeli thing or all these other political things, right? Like just to talk about it, process
mhm.
groups. But what I've noticed is that sometimes the classroom becomes a process group and now we're not learning. It's because everything is affecting us. And maybe we do need to go through this, but it's also like we need a space outside of like this classroom. Like we need a space where we can just talk about like the shittiness of, of like being in this environment right now. That would be really nice because I'm not alone when I want to talk to someone or process it with someone. I actually feel better when it's like, oh, we're all in this together. Cool. you know? Like we all can process it and air out our grievances. And some people just, deal with it in different ways, but it'd be nice to have this as an option.
Sure.
I want to thank you for spending your time with us and sharing your experiences. Um, Real quick before we close out here, for anybody considering entering into this field, any walk-away advice at this point in your career that people should consider?
I would consider if you're willing to look back at yourself and reflect on the things that have impacted you, then, you would be at a better place to help other people. Because sometimes the things that are bothering you or, you know, have influenced your life, if you haven't processed it, you might get that in that room and you might feel like I did for a second. You'll have guidance, but I think really working on yourself and really working on the things that have been looming in that dark closet will pop out and will manifest in ways that you don't think are gonna, you think you're gonna have it together, keep it together, but they're coming out, and it's better to do the work right now or during that process. So just be ready for that.
Sure.
But we would love for people to follow us on our social media, join our Facebook group, the Modern Therapist Group, to continue on with this and other conversations. And this has been one of my favorite projects as part of the podcast, is getting some of these updates from some people. And just once again want to thank you very much for sharing your time with us and reflecting on your experience. And until next time, I'm Curt Whithelm with Katie Vernoy and Marvin Vasquez.
Over 225,000 practitioners already use Simple Practice to grow their business and simplify admin tasks that take time away from their clients. Isn't it time your EHR worked as hard as you do? Find out more at simplepractice.com.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Powbox, helping therapists secure every email they send and receive. Get $250 off an annual plan with promo code MODERN. Visit powbox.com, that's PAUBOX.com, to protect your practice and your clients.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. Learn more about who we are and what we do at mtsgpodcast.com. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes.